Hello, dreamers! Yes, I did just crawl under my table to get to you. Hello, dreamers! Merry Christmas! Hello, Hajime Mashite. If you're just joining us today, I do a channel about life in Japan and adventures and other things, and today we're doing an unorthodox video. I'm gonna take off my baking apron. I'm going to treat my elf to some cookies. Today I'm doing a little baking. I'm sorry I haven't had any updates in a while. I've been super busy between work doing Christmas stuff and getting out Christmas presents to my family in the States. Some of them are still not out yet, so I've only made a couple short videos, so if you do want to check out my shorts, please check them out. I made some funny Christmas ones with the husband, but today I am baking some cookies and I was thinking about sharing with you the joys of baking in Japan. Yeah, so I'll be honest, that's a little bit sarcastic. Some of the things that were normal in America or maybe normal in your country are not normal in Japan. I definitely have a lot of pet peeves when it comes to things that are in the normal Japanese kitchen. I'm from America, and baking in America is really easy because we have giant ovens and lots of other things that just make it more convenient to bake, not to mention a bit cheaper than baking in Japan. So if you're planning to move to Japan temporarily, the chances that you have some of the things that are in my kitchen are probably rare. And this is it. This is the entire kitchen. Even though I was prepared mentally to have a smaller kitchen, there were things that I never really thought about until the holidays came around. Like, how do you bake a turkey when your oven is only this big? Or how do you bake multiple things at the same time? You can't. So you have to get a lot more creative when you're living in a small kitchen. So today we're going to talk about some of the things that I've encountered in my time in Japan, which I think makes baking complicated, a little bit more complicated than in America. So I know I haven't done a house tour yet, but here's a little tour of my kitchen. Yeah, this is it. This is my whole kitchen. It looks much bigger with a wide angle lens. This is my dish slash alcohol slash condiment slash pasta slash baking supply slash Costco storage space. This is the hot water boiler, which if you've never seen, it just keeps hot water constantly boiled. Oh my God, it's super friggin' dusty. Okay. Tea station next to the hot water boiler, appropriate. Rice cooker down here. This is typically my baking center, baking supplies, so that's usually in there. This door leads into the regular house, which I will show in another video. This is my fancy IKEA organization board, which is mostly recipes that have not made it in the recipe book. Under the table and behind the table, we have the pull-out chairs. We have the gas stove, which is used to be put in the living room for cooking. We have the hot plate, and then we have additional condiment storage, as well as some drawers down the side, which are full of random things. I love this IKEA table because it has all of those. So got to keep all the normal stuff. You know, we got some garbage bags. Fun little thingy pulls out so that I have access to more condiments that I use. This is typically where a rice cooker is supposed to go, but it doesn't go here very well because then this outlet is overloaded. In fact, I can unplug the mixer now because I'm done. So that's another thing. There's not a lot of outlets in Japan. So here is an outlet, right, which has currently the oven plugged into it. But that outlet, quite dangerously, runs up behind the splash net from my stove into this plug, because the only other plug in the entire kitchen is the one that is connected to the refrigerator, and then the other one, which the heater is plugged into, is actually running and is tacked here under the door and running into the hallway. I'm sure it's a fire hazard, but I keep a good watch on all of my outlets. Yeah, so as you can see, I have done some DIYing to deal with vertical storage because I needed more storage and things around the stove, but I don't have the counter space for it. I need the counter space for a dish rack, so I didn't have that type of space, so I built kind of a rack into the wall. So it's super practical and wonderful, and this is a tension rod on the window, all my cleaning supplies, vertical storage on the side of the refrigerator, the one and only built-in drawer which houses my utensils. Underneath it is my Tupperware storage. This is chemical and crock pot storage. And then under here we have all of the pots and pans, as well as my spiralizer. I love Japan, but I really want built-in counter space and storage. This is my big size refrigerator, whatever. This is super not common in most houses in Japan. If you're just coming here temporarily, you will not have a refrigerator this size. But I did not have that for my first 5 years, and this is a huge improvement to my baking life and my cooking life and my eating life and just my life in general. Thank you. In a normal apartment, you will have a fridge that's probably about this size or less. Typically, your freezer is probably the size of your microwave in your home country. The other thing that I did not have for 5 years was a stand mixer, and I'm flexing a little bit in my married life because this was my Christmas present. I hand mixed all my cookies or borrowed somebody's electric hand mixer. And I know that most people in most countries don't have a stand mixer. This is a bit of an American staple, but there is not a lot of storage space and counter space in Japan, so having space to keep something like this is super hard. Today I am making my grandmother's chocolate Jimmy recipe. Jimmy's is what the name of these sprinkles are called. Something that made baking a bit inconvenient when I came to Japan was having to convert all of my pounds and ounces and that type of thing into grams. But now I prefer grams. Sorry, America. Get with the rest of the world, okay? Right? You don't have tons of counter space in Japan. This is it. That's my counter space. That's all the built-in counter space in the average apartment. And if you're in a small Tokyo apartment, you don't even usually get that. It's usually like sink, stove. You have to purchase and buy. So I have bought pieces of furniture to house things like my oven and microwave. I have a big IKEA table that folds out so that if I need more counter space, I can fold it out. But because my kitchen is so small and I have a giant refrigerator, I actually can't get out. So I'm actually stuck behind the table. If I want to get to the other side where you are sitting on my rice cooker table, I have to crawl under the table or clean it and take it down. I know, it's a little ghetto. That's part of small kitchen life in Japan. Another part of small kitchen life is the fact that your average oven is very small, about 30 by 30 centimeters on the inside. So my oven came with baking trays, but many ovens don't. Many ovens have a rotating tray on the bottom because they are both a microwave and an oven, which is another space-saving part of Japan. I love that, but it also means that if you need to melt chocolate that's gonna go on something, but you're baking a cake or preheating the oven, you can't melt chocolate at the same time. You'd have to do it on the stove or something else. It is nice having a device that does both microwaving and baking, of course, but of course that also means that it's only one device. You don't have multiple racks typically on the inside of an oven like this. Mine actually does do that, but that's pretty rare for most ovens. So if you're coming to Japan for the short term, you may have a microwave that has an oven capability, though be careful, there are microwaves that are not ovens. The next thing that makes baking a little bit more difficult is just the size availability and the general availability of certain ingredients that you may be used to having as a standard staple in your house are just not standard things in Japan, and they may take time to find. For example, the chocolate jimmies that I needed for these cookies, I never found for 2 years, and then I finally found a store that had them, and I was like, other things that were totally different for me were lard. It's also called Crisco or shortening. I needed lard for one of my Italian Christmas cookie recipes. In the States, it comes in like a butter type stick form or in a tub. And I was looking and looking, so I eventually Googled it, and sure enough, it's even called lard, rado, but it comes in a squeeze bottle because of course it is used in frying in Japan. So I have to measure out the grams instead of the tablespoons or ounces that I need for my cookie recipes. Other ingredients are just not used in a lot of recipes here. So like powdered sugar typically comes in a bag about this size, but I need anywhere from 2 to 3 cups of powdered sugar, and this is maybe a cup. So this is like $2, but if I order it on Amazon, I can get a larger bag and it's about $4. So sometimes I have to order ingredients in order to make baking cost effective. There are ingredients that I bring back from America with me, like anise extract was something I've never been able to find here. I've found star anise, but that's not easy to bake with, so I don't usually use that. A lot of the times I have to go to some of the foreign import stores just to find things. Like the regular grocery store didn't carry powdered ginger. I went to 3 different grocery stores, and then I had to go to the foreign import store, and sure enough, they had powdered ginger. Which, you know, is shocking coming from this culture. I assumed they would have powdered ginger everywhere, but no, it was not a normal condiment or a normal spice. Another thing that I found out was that the fat content in Japanese butter is actually different, which means that many of cookies and cakes and other things spread differently. So that was not a pleasant surprise. I now buy New Zealand butter because it is big and cheap and has almost American fat content, so my cookies look normal. Certain condiments like baking powder and baking soda come in super tiny quantities outside of Costco, and that can be really hard to deal with, especially when you know you're gonna be making a lot of something. Like this little packet is 4 grams of baking powder, and that's literally a teaspoon of baking powder. So this is 1 recipe's worth. So maybe there's 5 little packets in a box of these. So you have to really think ahead in order to get enough baking powder. They do sell it in larger quantities, but most stores don't carry those big quantities. So you have to find a store that has that quantity of baking powder for you. And sometimes if you live in the countryside, you're not going to have any kinds of stores that carry large quantities of baking supplies. Because products are so much harder to find, whenever I come across something, for example, cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving or canned pumpkin for pumpkin pie, like these are rare things. Whenever I find them, I always buy a few because I don't know when or if I'm going to see it again. Now I live in a bit of a bigger city and it's a little bit easier to find things, but that being said, I still went to 3 stores to buy the stupid lard. Oh. Anyway, cookie roll number 2 done. Bye-bye. Another difference is that eggs, like these that are coming to room temperature right now. How many eggs come in a container in your country? Please leave a comment down below because this is something I never thought about. Eggs in Japan come in cartons of 10, not 12, like they do in the States. So I used to think about things by the dozen of egg, and that doesn't work. It's only 10 eggs. However, it is good to note that eggs in Japan are super clean and safe. They pass really incredible standards. They're hyper clean right out of the carton. I don't have to wash them like I did in the States. You can crack them over rice or into ramen or anything and eat them raw. There's no chance of getting salmonella because Japan has really high egg standards, and you will not find imported eggs in this country, which I'm very grateful for. Another thing that I never thought about is that it is so cold in the houses in Japan that when I bake cookies in the winter, products that I would typically maybe leave out overnight or put on the counter for a few hours to reach room temperature. In the States, because we have indoor heating, they never come to room temperature because room temperature is almost as cold as the refrigerator itself. I left out about a cup of butter yesterday in sticks, and I expected it to be soft enough to cream this morning when I went to make these, but it was so cold that as soon as I started creaming it, it just all stuck to the sides of the bowl. I was actually on the phone with my friend at the time and I was like, what am I gonna do? It's already like stuck to the sides of the bowl. And I was like, I guess I could put it in like hot water. And then I was like, nah, I'll just hold it in front of the heater. Say hi, little stand heater. Hello. So I actually had to hold the bowl next to the stand heater and let it melt a little bit so that it would finish creaming correctly. So that was funny. It worked very well though. So yeah, those are my biggest qualms with baking in Japan. I still love baking, I still love making cookies, and I never want to give that up as a little bit seasonal hobby. It is a lot harder and it is a lot more stressful. I can't just buy everything in one go. I have to go to multiple stores. I have to keep things all year long, especially special ingredients like anise or the chocolate sprinkles. Like I'm only making 4 kinds of cookies. In the States, I usually make about 16, but I cannot make all of them in Japan. It's just too difficult. I don't have the means or the space or the containers to store that many cookies like I did in the States. So I'm hoping to one day have a house where I have enough space for that. So in the comments, leave a question, or if something in this video surprised you or you didn't think about it. I think it's really interesting to know every culture has such a different culture of baking. And that being said, like, Japan does not have a culture of baking. Like, on Christmas, everybody eats cake, but everybody buys their cake. And if they make it, they typically do exactly what I'm gonna do this year because I don't have the time, which is buy the sponge cakes pre-packaged and then buy whipped cream and whip it in a bowl, and it gives you instructions on how to do it with a whisk. I will be using handy dandy stand mixer, but it even comes with its own little piping bag because Japanese people just don't buy these types of things that they only use once a year. So leave your comments in the comment section below. I'm curious to know about your country, and I'm curious to know what other things you were shocked by in Japan. And if you just moved here, tell me your gripes. It's okay to rant in the comment section. My cookies are officially in the fridge, ready to be baked for tomorrow. So keep dreaming, dreamers. Oh, I gotta go under the table.